tonight's thought. Am I right in saying that there are only, in all of the world, 2 languages that are universal? Visual and math? Yeah, I think that's right. That in all the world and all of human history, there's only 2 languages that are universal that everybody understands. The visual language and math. And most people hate math, so... Yeah, I know I shouldn't say that as a teacher. Like, somebody told me years ago when I was in teacher school that you're not supposed to disparage a subject, somebody else's, another teacher's discipline. You know, because they say that the kids, if the kids respect you as a teacher and you start saying that you don't like something that they are actively studying, then they may follow in your footsteps and hate it too. They may not like it either. And consequently, they may also not like your colleague, the math teacher, right? It made a lot of sense to me back then, but years later, after I've been teaching now for nearly a decade, the one thing that I take from that piece of advice is that, like, if I tell them that I hate math and they listen to me, I could think, like, well, at least they're listening to me. That's one thing they've taken from me that I've said, right? See, I'm talking to them. I'm using their language of English to communicate with them something, and they're actually listening to me. That's amazing. Usually they just tune me out completely. But if I show them a movie or something about how much I hate math, like if I showed them a big picture of like that multiplication sign, the X, and then put like a little skull over it so it would look like a skull and crossbones, something that like math is poison. That's visual language. That's something that that would be a really egregious error for me as a teacher to do, right? Yeah. Yeah, I had this thought last week, actually. I was teaching some college freshmen about how to do a visual analysis, how to take an image, a picture of something, and break it apart into its different visual elements, its components, to show how the whole graphic worked together to, sell a message. And I was standing up there in front of the classroom and I was telling them about all this, speaking English to communicate to them. They also spoke English. And it wasn't really registering at all what I was saying. And of course, I realized the irony that I was telling them about how visuals work without actually showing them any visuals, right? So, yeah, but then I like, of course, got out that tried and true method, which is the slideshow, right? I showed them a slideshow of just different images and broke them down into how they worked. And I showed them this ad that I had seen on Facebook for this app, this phone application that uses AI to help you as a writer generate ideas and all this. It was something that was Chat GPT empowered. And I was showing them this app and this ad for an app, and I had drawn on the slideshow like an arrow that pointed to the black border that was going around the phone. And I was telling them that, how do we look at that image and know that's a phone? Because when you're looking at an image of a phone, all you're really doing is you are jogging your memory of what a phone looks like. So it's like the job of the graphic designer to help you easily jog that memory, right? So I pointed an arrow to this really what it was just a black rectangle that had been curved and smoothed out with a little texture added to it to make it look like it was the case of a phone. So then they kind of started to get it a little bit, right? So I was using the visual language, and it just seemed to give them this concept that they suddenly understood, right? Yeah, and then I showed them this, picture of like this guy's YouTube video. There was like this thumbnail of his that I saw. This guy that I follow on YouTube, this is Standard Story Company. So I took a screenshot of this guy's thumbnail for a video that he had shared, and I sort of told them that, like, what is this? And they instantly recognized it as a YouTube thumbnail. And the picture there was, this guy, and, he's got his headphones and like a hat and all that, and he's got a big camera there. And the title of the video is not communicated in the picture. It's like this, what we call meta commentary. This quick clickbaity phrase that instantly appeals to the viewer who is like a aspiring filmmaker who doesn't have a lot of money to go to film school and doesn't have the time and years and all that. And so the image in the thumbnail of the guy with the camera is accompanied with the words "save years learning." And this really clicked with one of my students, and she actually said that she's a YouTuber, and she sort of took the words out of my mouth. She said, like, I spend hours making my video and editing it and all that, and all of that is for nothing if I don't have a really good, well-designed thumbnail. She said she had never really thought about that as any kind of like graphic design or any kind of like, thinking about visuals as a way of communicating with people, right? Of actually really telling a story through a single still image, because images, as I told my students, right, they're very high stakes, because images, unlike video or things that are just immediate and must have an immediate impact on the viewer for them to really work, right? So yeah, that's when the students started to get it, right? The idea that you could do all this work, put in hours of blood, sweat, and tears into a project, but none of it works if you don't have a cool picture. Right? A cool thumbnail. It sort of reminded me of when the student said this. It reminded me of like being in Sunday school. Years ago, growing up. I haven't been to church in years, but I did grow up here in the South, and it was it was the law that you had to go to church every week and learn about heaven and hell, and the good versions of heaven and hell, right? Not the Catholic versions. We were Southern Baptist. The PG rated versions, I guess you could say. But yeah, I would go into Sunday school and they would actually show us these renderings, these artist renderings of what hell looked like. With the tall mountains and the fire and the bloody sky and everything. And it was, scary for sure, but it was also one of these things that's like, what if that was like an actual picture of hell? Like what Satan was doing down there under what I thought at the time was the earth, right? Like under the crust of the earth down there in hell. That's what Satan was doing. So anybody who would die and they would go to hell would just spend all of eternity in this landscape that my Sunday school teacher was showing us. And I was thinking at the time, like maybe 5, maybe 6 years old. Yeah, of course it scared me, right? But all these years later, I don't know. Looking back on it, thinking about it, it just really looked like a picture of like Mordor from the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings movies, right? Like if I looked at it now, I'd sort of be thinking like, oh man, that's, adventure and, finding yourself and going to the, top of Mordor to throw the ring in there and all that. It's not really like hell, like everlasting damnation and all that, right? And I don't know. I think definitely, you know, for a kid also who in today's world who just goes to the movies and sees images like that, you know, if they died right now and they had to go to hell, you know, I think for the modern kid in hell who's used to looking at that stuff, they would just sort of look at all the fire and brimstone. They'd be like, you know, CGI, right? You know, it's like visuals have a very powerful, there's a lot of high stakes behind them. So Satan really needs to modernize, right? Especially for us, like the modern man in hell. None of that's really scary, right? Like, I think I actually saw, if Satan were down there under the crust of the earth at the core, really baking up something good to torture us with for all of eternity, I actually think I saw like a pretty good artist rendition of it this week as I was doing work on my computer, and suddenly just everything went black and my computer went into like this automatic. I thought I had the settings erased from doing this, but my computer went into like an automatic system update. And, you know, it's like 25%, 36%, and just like this for 2 hours. And then finally it went to 100%. And I got that little spinning thing, you know, the dots, the ellipses, and it just spun around and around and around for the next 1 hour. Yeah, I was thinking like that right there. For all of eternity, looking at a screen like that was just saying 100%. For all eternity, yeah, that would be Satan could take a cue from Microsoft Windows, I think. Speaking of taking all my cues from Microsoft Windows, this is the Midnight Citizen Show. This is your host, Mike Booty. Thank you so much for joining me here tonight, midnight, and want to welcome you in tonight. Yeah, these days it's much harder to scare us with visuals. You know, like the art that I see on my Google News feed. Now that's scary. Like, you know, seriously. Yeah, if anybody's going to die right now and go to hell, you know, the devil's really going to have to sell him on it. The guy would probably just think he fell asleep or something. You know, just woke up. Yeah. Yeah, the stuff that I see on the news, like when I see, God dang it. I'm sorry, I'm going to go here. I don't know what else to talk about. I'm sorry, but yeah, like when I look on the news, you know, I see pictures of like Donald Trump and he's there in the Oval Office next to Elon Musk. You know, yeah. Like Elon Musk. I don't know. Yeah, Donald Trump's standing there right now. Donald Trump is just a guy who cosplays as rich. And he's like the president of the billionaire fan club. I don't know. I think like, yeah, if Donald Trump was like a kid on the Brady Bunch, he would just like come home every day and write letters to Elon Musk on that show, and he'd offer to do like whatever it took to get Elon Musk to come and take him to the prom and be his prom date. You know, this guy who just absolutely worships at the altar of rich, Donald Trump, the most powerful man on the planet, allegedly, who the only person who he really looks up to and aspires to be is Elon Musk, because he's actually rich. Yeah, see, like when I see pictures like that of the two of them in the Oval Office, and you know, we're one day away from seeing video of them holding hands and traipsing down the beach and riding tandem bicycles through Washington, D.C. Yeah. Sort of like, the devil's got to up his game if he's going to scare us with visuals in Sunday school, right? Yeah, see, that's how I know that visual language is the universal language, right? See, yeah. Because math, like, forget math, like math, if you see it, you have to understand logic to get math, right? But with visual language, right? Yeah. Visual language is, just absurd. It doesn't matter if it's logic or not. It's just, it's there in front of us. Like, we're seeing it. It must be true, Yeah, and I am sorry for talking about this again. I really don't mean to be just, I don't know. It's tough to be in the sand right now. It just is. I've been thinking about it a lot lately because I have to give this guy props that I have never felt my life more directly affected by a United States president than I have right now, right? I work for a university, a public university that, last week got a lot of money taken away from it in federal funding. Yeah, these are the NIH grants, the National Institute of Health, right? That, it says cost my university $70 million, right? $70 million in NIH funding. And, I guess what I'm worried about right now is that I may not have a job in the fall, and I don't think I'm being dramatic about that at all. I don't think it's possible to be dramatic right now. I really don't, because I think I did say this like on last week's show or whatever, or on last week's vlog, that this is beginning to look like not really like an ethnic cleanse. An ethnic cleanse is definitely falling under the umbrella, but what it really seems to be like is a cleanse of just poor people and people who work and people who seem to be just not directly contributing to the economy in a way that, people like Donald Trump and people like Elon Musk can understand. Or maybe they just really don't care. I don't know. But NIH cut would cost UAB $70 million, threaten jobs and life-saving research in Alabama. So yeah, for years, my university is routinely ranked in the top 5, and last year it ranked number 1 in research institutes that get this federal money to do things like, research cancer and other life-saving treatments. And so they lost all this money, but of course a federal judge, blocked it because it's illegal to do what he's doing. But who knows? Again, it's this thing where I think, talking about visuals, because that's what, people really understand these days more than anything else. Trump's whole plan, his whole strategy, goes back to what Republican strategists and also these Republican influencers have been saying for years. Just adopt the social media model that Twitter invented many years ago, which is just like bomb them with as much information as you possibly can, just overwhelm them with absurdity, and they won't be able to, they don't know what to concentrate on, right? So just do it all. Just get yourself out there, and it is like an influencer model. It is like this. He is an influencer president, right? And people just can't wait to wake up in the day and just see what he posted overnight, or see if like his new executive order is up yet, right? And so that's what's happening. And yeah, it says a federal judge on Monday afternoon temporarily blocked the administration. A move that went into effect earlier in the day. The ruling, however, only applies to institutions in the states that joined the lawsuit, which Alabama did not join a lawsuit to sue the Trump administration, because Alabama looks up to Donald Trump the way that Donald Trump, looks up to Elon Musk. So what this basically means for me is the fact that these things, even though the medical side of my university, the hospital side, the research side is not directly related to what I do at the department, cuts like this really do, especially cuts like this to funding that the university relies on every year, do have a way of trickling down to the lowest of the low at the university. The non-essential employees. And a lot of times those are considered the part-time instructors, the adjunct faculty. And that's what I am. Right. And this has happened before. And, really the reason that adjunct faculty exist in English departments like the one I work in is so that the associate professors and the tenured professors and all of the people who are there to do research and write books and journal articles they do teach like 300, 400 level and graduate level classes, right? They do teach, but we exist to lighten their workload so that they don't have to teach freshmen how to write, and so there is contingency in place for things like this, which is to fire the adjunct faculty or to, not give them contracts, to put freezes on that so that those professors will now have to teach freshmen how to write and all that. So, I'm not being dramatic at all. This is something that has happened in the past. And I just saw my boss the other day, and she assured me that I do have a job in the fall, which is good, but that's the same thing she said like last year. And, before one of my classes was taken away from me over Christmas, and then it was handed back, and it's like a long story, but it was taken away briefly, and then and then it turns out that like more students enrolled. And so they had to give it back to me, which was good. But I mean, it just was up in the air. And that's the way that adjunct life is that it's always up in the air. How many classes you're going to get, how much money you're going to make every semester. Right. And so even though I've been assured that I do have a job in the fall and I'm on the schedule, it'll be up in the air until I'm actually there in August, teaching that class. And even then, who knows? Yeah. I think the thing to do right now is to get a job where I don't have to rely on any federal funding at all, any state funding for that matter, because I said I am in Alabama, and Alabama is going to do whatever Trump's going to do, or what Elon Musk tells them to do. Yeah, I think like get a job in the private sector not the nonprofit sector anymore. Yeah, get a job in the private sector, right? And also make a lot of money really quickly. I think, like, honestly, because I genuinely think that, like, they are trying to make this country really uncomfortable to live in for people that don't have at least $1 million in net worth and don't rely on the government for anything whatsoever. I think that that's what they're trying to do right now. And to a lot of people, some of them who probably have no idea how much they rely on the federal government, you know, that's a good deal, right? Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, it is very scary right now because of all these you know, people who work for the federal government, these probationary employees who have been hired within the last 2 years, who have been fired, right, because they didn't take the payout. And I don't know how things are going with that right now. I have not watched the news that much this year. Maybe you can, maybe you know better than me right now. But you know, as I understand it, right, the Trump administration, they said that, you know, we'll give you until February to, you know, quit your job, to leave your job with the federal government, and we'll pay you until September, right? And if you don't take the payout, then we can't guarantee your employment anymore. And yeah, that's exactly what happened. So something like 72,000 government employees took the payout. We have no way of knowing how they're going to get paid because Congress controls that budget, and they don't have a line item appropriating, you know, severance for 72,000 people. So yeah, the day after the deadline to accept the buyout, a ton of temporary, probationary federal employees were laid off, right? And which is illegal because they can only be laid off if they don't perform their jobs properly. So I guess to get around this, a lot of them ended up getting these firing letters, letters of termination, that they had done a shitty job, that they had just performed really poorly. And I was trying to find one of these emails right now. Here's something from Reuters. They have like a quote here from one of the letters, one of the general termination letters that was sent out. It says, "The agency finds, based on your performance, that you have not demonstrated that your further employment at the agency would be in the public interest." So, you know, not only are they firing them and just putting them on an unemployment line that's probably longer than the, you know, line to get into hell, you know, after the plague, they have to make them feel really shitty about the job that they did too, and also make it really difficult to find future employment, because, you know, if you've ever been fired, of course, you know, right, that it's really difficult to go on the job market and explain to them what you've been doing for the last 2 years. You could say that you worked for the federal government, but you were fired because of bad performance, right? That's not good. And yeah, I don't know what all these people right now are, like, you know, supposed to do. Where in the world where are they supposed to work? You know, it's like, what's the plan for that? Like, how is any of this efficient? You know, putting thousands of people out of work all at once. It's hard enough to find a job right now. Believe me, I've looked, you know, I've been on LinkedIn, hashtag open to work, for the last 2 years. I like the job that I have right now, but as I said, it is temporary. It's not forever, and it's very fragile, as I think I've shown you so far. So it's, you know, And not only that, but it's like, you go on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's just basically a big scam market anyway, right? You just get like, it's terrible. You just get like job invitations to, come and train AI, work from home, training AI all day long, sitting at your computer. You feel like that 80-year-old guy who's been working at Wendy's for the last 40 years, and like this 16-year-old kid comes in and you're training him to like take over your job, right? That's what LinkedIn is now. It's basically come and train AI, work at your own pace, make as much as $30 an hour, right? Until we don't need you anymore. Do that. Yeah, what this all feels like right now is it really does feel like it's just I've long suspected the rich of just being so heavily indulged in mocking the poor and those who work. And, this isn't some kind of big revelation, but it's like they can't even hold it a secret anymore of how much they do it and how much their lives are based around it. That just all of what's happening right now just like confirms it all, that this is like just a big game, right? Just the rich, it's like the only way that they literally can have fun is just by, it's like the way that we think about it, all of us, is we think about it as sort of like, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Well, they haven't worked a day in their life and they're bored of it, right? So they've got to find a way to do what they love. And what they really love to do is just mock the poor, And it really all is in like that movie Eyes Wide Shut. I think about this movie constantly. It is a very good movie, because I think that movie is really just everything that we need to know right now. We should put it on PBS as educational programming, because I tell you, right? It's like, Eyes Wide Shut, that movie with, Tom Cruise, where he plays this very wealthy doctor who lives, is like a Park Avenue doctor. I don't know anything about Park Avenue, but you always hear that street in conjunction with the word doctor. If you're a Park Avenue doctor, that means that you've made it. You've arrived in the world, right? But it becomes very clear early on in that movie that Tom Cruise, no matter how high ranking he is in society, how much money he makes at what he does, he's still a servant of the uber wealthy and powerful. In that movie, the movie starts where he's like at a banquet with his wife, or a ball or something like that at Christmas time. And he's having a good time, and he's summoned upstairs, and there's like this the Sidney Pollack, right? We don't know what he does or anything, what Sidney Pollack is, his whole thing is. And I think that's the point. We know what Tom Cruise does. He's a doctor, but there's just this sort of, superpower, some kind of like this uber presence hanging over that ball. And like Sidney Pollack is kind of there, and he's the one who's throwing the party in this like lavish, ballroom that you find out is basically just in his house. And yeah, Sidney Pollack's up there, and he summons Tom Cruise away from what he's doing, and Sidney Pollack has just like had this rendezvous with like a prostitute who's overdosed. And it's just clear that like whatever Sidney Pollack does or whatever, he knows, he's arrogant enough to know that Tom Cruise is going to be at his beck and call, right? And yeah, that entire movie is like just Tom Cruise has this falling out with his wife over this sexual fantasy that she has, that doesn't involve him. And so he's just wandering around the streets of New York, going from place to place. And everywhere he goes, he runs afoul of some kind of like a weird sexual situation. Like he sort of starts to negotiate and begins to engage with a prostitute before he's called away by his wife. But he also goes in to, just people are passing him on the street and looking at him in these like very overt sexual ways that like we never really experience that much in like just our everyday lives, just walking around the city. I don't know, maybe some of us do, but generally it's like this very heightened reality of just like us living in this heightened sexual world. Right. And yeah, of course the big part of the movie comes when he finds out from a friend of his that he went to college with, that there's this house party, I guess you could say, on the outskirts of the city. And it's very cloak and dagger. He doesn't know what's going on, but he just knows that there's something that he needs to find out there. He needs to go there. He's just compelled to go there. Right. And so he has to go and rent like this costume, and he gets like this cloak. And of course in the costume shop, he finds out that the costume shop's owner is having this like weird sexual tryst with these two Japanese businessmen. So there's like more sexual escapades there. And so, yeah, like when he finally gets to the mansion and he's, he goes in costume and a mask, and he finds out that it's just this big orgy, that it's this secret society of some kind. And he doesn't know who is in the society at all. They're all in cloaks and masks as well. And he's just walking through this house, and right, and like everybody like is just having sex. Okay, it's just this very controversial scene at the time. This movie came out like 25 years ago, and there's like these people in costumes who are all men, and like they're having sex with these women, and he's just walking through it. And later on in the movie, he finds out that these are like the uber wealthy, like Sidney Pollack was there, and these are just the wealthiest 1% of the 1%, just in this house in the Hamptons or whatever, or like in Gatsby country or something. And they're just like having sex. And what this basically is, I think, the way that I interpret it, and I really don't think there's any other way to interpret it, right, is just like the way that everybody keeps on engaging with Tom Cruise in that movie in just a very overt sexual manner, whether they're actually having sex with him or whether they're just like kind of like, taking his coffee order. It's just clear that it's a world that he's in, where he is, no matter, he is very, rich and very well off, but he is nevertheless a servant, and he's walking amidst all these other servants, the prostitutes and the hotel clerks and the coffee shop owners. These are all the servants, right? And all they can really seem to think about, and the only way they can really seem to communicate with each other, is through sex, right? And so what the orgy that he's walking around, right, is the fact that like it's just the uber rich just mocking and satirizing the poor people. Like, oh, this is what they do. This is the only thing that they enjoy, right, is just sex, right? So that's what they're doing. It's just this big sketch comedy show of some kind that they're putting on or some kind of weird experimental theater where they're just like, having this thing where they're just like relentlessly lampooning the poor and the working class and the servants is like, the only way they know how to communicate is sex. And meanwhile, we know what's going on, right? So that's their form of entertainment, right? And so, I'm not saying that kind of thing happens in the world today, although I'm sure that the movie Eyes Wide Shut gave the uber rich some pretty good ideas, right? But, again, you think about Eyes Wide Shut, and not to get conspiratorial or anything here, but, it was directed by Stanley Kubrick, and he's the guy that throughout his career sort of made a pretty good name for himself, taking you behind the curtain in some subtle and not so subtle ways of, what is really going on, right? What the sort of alternate secret history of the world, what's really going on, right? And no, I don't believe he directed the moon landing or anything, but I think he did. I think he knew of the conspiracy theories, and I think he played that part very well, which is why there's so much Apollo 11 stuff sprinkled throughout The Shining, right? But, but again, it's like, this is the thing, is like the rich are just bored people, right? And this isn't some kind of a big revelation, but this is what they love to do, is they love to mock the poor and the people who work and the people who actually sort of are not woken up every day, right? Motivated by just the desire to make money, right? And absorb power. And, I just think, yeah, it's like, it's not even a secret anymore. We just sort of see these people doing it. They can't hold it to themselves any longer. Right. And, yeah, like, I don't know. It's like the news cycle these days moves pretty quickly. Like, by next week, I wouldn't be surprised, right? If maybe they're like kind of in the town square doing orgies. It's just like only a matter of time before they just tell us all what we already know. That just coming on and just kind of giving that like cat that ate the canary look. That's just like, it's all been a sham. You all thought you had free will this whole time. You really didn't. This is all just like, just see that movie, The Matrix? Like, yeah, I don't know. We're super rich. We don't even know that we're living in the Matrix. But whatever the Matrix is, if there is one or there's not one, you are living in it. This is a matrix within the matrix. And yeah, I mean, they can tell us all and they can finally confirm it. And, what can we do? I don't know. We just like the most insane stuff now. We're just, it's like we're so desensitized to it. Right? Yeah, I was talking back and forth with somebody this week on Substack that I posted this picture of Elon Musk with his kid, because Elon Musk now comes out. I don't know what he does. He does, at campaign rallies though, when Trump was campaigning in those last 3 weeks or so, Trump would come out and he would have his kid on his back and be dancing around the stage around this guy who had just like, a few months earlier, somebody had tried to assassinate him. And so obviously that can happen again, but like Elon Musk is prancing back and forth and he's slowly becoming the most hated man on the planet. And, it's like Elon Musk and his security detail is like a little baby, and, people don't bat an eye at that. Like that's insane. That's an insane image that we're all looking at. But like I said, it's like, it's not math. It doesn't require logic. It's an image that we all see. So it must be happening. Right. And yeah, somebody on Substack, when I posted that picture and that with that caption, Elon Musk and his security detail, caught the reference, right? Because remember at the end of the Dead Zone, the movie, right? With when the political candidate, Craig Stillson, Christopher Walken shakes his hand and has this like vision that Craig Stillson's going to be the one to end the world by putting his finger on the button that launches the nuclear bomb or whatever, which is so naive to think that now. It's like, there's a million other ways that the world can end than that right there, but yeah, like Johnny Smith, Christopher Walken feels like he has to do something. He has to assassinate the president, right? Like, what if Oswald was right and acted alone, of course. So yeah, he goes up and tries to shoot Craig Stillson, but misses. And Craig Stillson, to, protect himself, takes the baby out of somebody's hands and holds it up in front of him. Right. And so somebody takes that picture and just very powerful visual language there. It completely ruins him. Right. And it's put on the cover of like Newsweek or Time Magazine or whatever, with the caption, the end for Craig Stillson, right? Because he used a baby cowardly to protect himself. So, I don't know. But yeah, like I honestly think now that if, people just buy whatever Elon Musk does now, buy whatever Donald Trump does. It's like they turn on the news and they're going to establish a homeland for U.S. tourism in Gaza. Like, that sounds insane, but we see the image where Trump is standing right next to Netanyahu, so it must be true, okay? And all right, go president. Okay, fine. So like they see images of like Elon Musk holding his baby up, and like if somebody fired on him, which is a real distinct possibility, especially with all these, federal employees being out of work now, and probably at least one of them, is going to go insane over this whole thing. Elon Musk could very well use that baby the same way that Craig Stillson did at the end of the Dead Zone. And, his supporters love him so much that, they would take a picture, and instead of like putting it on the internet, with the caption, "The End for Elon Musk," the headline would probably read something along the lines of, like, I don't know, "Hero Baby Saves Musk." Yeah. Just think, yeah, we're very, very close to the day where they're gonna just come on the news. Trump's gonna get on Truth Social or something like that, and they're just gonna tell us what they've been doing the whole time, right? Like about the secret currency, the time has come to tell you guys all there's a secret currency, right? A currency that only the rich know about, that the rich use, and you're not going to believe it, The secret currency all along is Hershey's Kisses. It's like all we do, we pay each other, the rich pay each other in Hershey's Kisses. We don't use actual money. Are you kidding me? That stuff is worthless. All this time, you've been eating all of your money, all of your Hershey's Kisses. You had no idea that all you had to do if you wanted that Ferrari, all you had to do if you wanted that, those Super Bowl tickets, all you had to do was just like walk right into the dealership and hand them over 3 Hershey's Kisses. That would have bought you that car. And we laugh at you and we mock you every time on... This explains Valentine's Day. Because I really don't think that anybody likes Valentine's Day. Like, I only thought this when I was single. I hated Valentine's Day when I was single. It's just like another day where you're reminded that you're single. But, I've been married now for 9 years. Been with my wife for 15. I'm not really sure I like Valentine's Day either now. And it's just because, like, I don't need a day to remind myself that I'm a good husband. Okay. I buy my wife flowers. I bring her candy. I don't need some special occasion to do it, but Valentine's Day puts that pressure on you. You're standing in line at the Piggly Wiggly. You see all these other guys with flowers, right? And Hershey's Kisses. And yeah, the rich, they just watch us on those cameras that are in the pig that are hardwired to their orgy rooms or whatever. They just like watch us, spending $2.50 of what we think is real money on actual money, candy, and just taking it home with us and sitting there and watching Dirty Dancing while we just devour what could be our life savings if we only knew. That Hershey Kisses were actual gold. Yeah, did you watch the SNL 50 thing last week? I did not watch this. I forgot that it was on for, just like I always do with Saturday Night Live. I know what time it comes on and what night it comes on. It's just I always forget. But, Saturday Night Live, the 50th anniversary, my wife was watching some clips of it the other night on YouTube, just some of the sketches and everything. And I know that it's very fashionable to dump on Saturday Night Live, so here I go. The SNL 50 thing, the bit that I saw of it, it really did feel like a sad epilogue to the movie that came out last year, Saturday Night. And this was possibly, this is my favorite movie of last year. I've seen this movie several times now, and I like it a little bit more each time. It's Saturday Night. It's a really good movie. It's a fictionalized version of the first, 90 minutes that take place before the first ever episode of Saturday Night Live, which of course at that time was called, Saturday Night. And the movie does portray the show as it really was, even though obviously a lot of the conflict and the drama that happens in the movie in real time, happened in the months leading up to the first ever episode. So a lot of obviously all that's condensed and dramatized, of course. But the show was a scrappy outsider kind of a show that did not, have a chance. And it literally was set up to fail, because of a contract dispute that, NBC had with Johnny Carson, who didn't want reruns of The Tonight Show to air on Saturday. And so NBC just played chicken with them by, giving this young kid, Lorne Michaels, all this money and resources to make a show. And it was a show that was set up to fail. And of course it succeeded and was like that, still like the scrappy outsider for a period of about 3 weeks before it became a gigantic cult hit. And then very soon after that, a big, of course, mainstream hit, Saturday Night Live, that we all know today. And it very much was like almost, grunge or punk or whatever, where it was what it was for about 3 to 4 weeks before it became co-opted, and stamped on lunch boxes and just T-shirts and all that. And ever since then, it's just been this inside the system institution that has had some very funny moments over the years. And of course, I think that, there's a very long-standing belief among people who have watched Saturday Night Live that it was the best it ever was when they were watching it at a certain time, usually like as a teenager. And I definitely think that there were a lot of great seasons in the 90s, a lot of great cast members, but I definitely think that the best time was during the O.J. Simpson trial, which was when I was first watching Saturday Night Live, because you would go on and Norm Macdonald on Weekend Update every week would make the O.J. Simpson trial manageable and fun to understand and actually make you feel as like an 8th grade kid that you were, part of what was going on in the world. Right. And so, he predated stuff like The Daily Show by a couple of years. And so that was really very special to me. Right. And so obviously I just have not watched Saturday Night Live since I was, really in the 9th grade or so, I think. And just seeing it occasionally over the years. Right. But absolutely had no interest whatsoever in the Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary. I just could really, care less because I'm not going to, celebrate something that I have no, no real fascination and no real interest in. But, it's just funny because like watching some of the clips the other night with my wife on YouTube, and just whenever they would cut to the audience and scan through the audience, everybody was like in black tie. Everybody was just there, and they were all celebrities and they were all famous people and rich people and everything. And they looked like they were forced to be there like anybody else at a black tie event. Like they don't really want to do this. And it just is like amazing to me because, just there's this movie that came out last year that is presenting this thing that has been around for 50 years as a marvel of entertainment, that nothing in entertainment really lasts that long. And the movie doesn't really make an argument for why it's been around for so long. It just sort of makes an argument for how real it once was and how truly like cutting edge and kind of daring, and how borderline insane all of the people involved in it kind of were. Like insane and arrogant and just on the edge and sort of ready to tear each other apart, but also making the argument that that's sort of what it takes to make something great and interesting, right? And so the movie has no central claim at all and does not seek to explain Saturday Night Live in any sense whatsoever. And that's why the Saturday Night Live 50th felt such like a sad epilogue, just seeing the two back to back, seeing the movie about its origins and then seeing what it's become is the complete antithesis of what it set out to originally be. And the Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary just felt like it was laughing at the idea of what it used to be. It was almost like just like looking at the idea of Saturday Night Live and sort of just being like, I don't care about that anymore. This is what we are now. In order to stay relevant, we have to have all these celebrities and all these famous people to show you how important this is, rather than having the public involved in it, which is like what it's always kind of supposed to be. Right. And so, yeah, it was weird watching it. It just some of those sketches, right? Just like that. I saw one sketch with like a Miles Teller, that young actor. I guess he's young. I don't know. He's in Top Gun in that movie Whiplash, right? And they brought him onto the stage, and he didn't really do anything there. And it was like this cable access show that the two alums, Amy Poehler and Maya Rudolph, were doing, right? And so they were sitting there with him, and they were doing like Bronx accents, like they had a cable access show in the Bronx and all that, which is just like Coffee Talk. And then, of course, Mike Myers came on and did Coffee Talk, right? And it just felt like they were sort of like just so phony and so insincere about what they were doing and just not into it whatsoever. And what it really did feel like is it just felt like perfunctory, like they have to do this or something, like it's something that they're obligated to do. It's like you don't have to. And maybe just wait until October, right? When the actual real anniversary happens. Maybe, because that's when Saturday Night Live debuted, right? It was in October 1975. So I don't understand why they're doing it in February. And on a Sunday. That doesn't make any sense either. What are you doing? But yeah, just with everybody, like all these rich and famous people, in suits, it just felt like what they would do, I don't know, before their Eyes Wide Shut party, right? Like before our orgy, let's go to 30 Rockefeller Plaza and engage in a little bit of light comedic entertainment for the masses. Well, I will tell you what, some good news here is that the White Lotus is back. Speaking of being distracted by entertainment. Yeah, the White Lotus is a show that I think is a very important kind of a show. It's on, HBO, and it started... it's like Mike White is the creator of that show, who I've been following, I guess, sort of accidentally for many years. I've never really looked forward to the next Mike White project, but he's a guy who made a name for himself doing these sort of daring independent movies in the late 90s and early 2000s, you know, like Chuck and Buck and The Good Girl. And you can always count on some male nudity and whatever he's involved in. That's how you know a Mike White production. But during there was a book that came out a few years ago about the history of HBO, which I immediately snagged up because I had the idea for that book. Like, somebody should write a history about the television network HBO home box office. And I just Googled it, and God damn it, somebody else did. Okay, so it had literally just been published like that day that I had that idea. So, but yeah, they interviewed Mike White, you know, toward the end because they were talking about, like, during the COVID summer, HBO had just hired all these writers to just come up with these original ideas that they could do very cheaply and shoot right away as soon as COVID was over. So he came up with the idea for the show, The White Lotus, which is, you know, the original season took place at this Hawaiian resort, and had you know, a cast of characters, and you know the people who were vacationing at the resort, and then the people who were working at the resort. So it was very much like an upstairs downstairs kind of thing, like that British Downton Abbey show or Gosford Park or whatever. And so, you know, you got to see obviously the rich, because it's a 5-star Hawaiian resort. So there's a lot of very rich people who were going there. There's like a couple on their honeymoon, and the man on that show is like really upset that he didn't get the nicer room with the plunge pool. Right. And then there's the family who's vacationing with like Steve Zahn and Connie Britton. And you know, they're fighting all the time. and their kids, one of them is like Sydney Sweeney, who I didn't even know until recently became like a huge star. She's like in all this stuff. And but yeah, like she's their daughter, and she's got like this friend who is I believe part Polynesian. And so like they have this this thing. It's like, it's all about kind of white privilege. Like there's a lot of underlying themes of like imperialism on the show, and how, you know, rich countries come into poor nations and take them over, and then, you know, develop the land and turn them into vacation resorts. And so it was just a very good show for what it was. Just a show that kind of came out of nowhere and got like really surprised, and really surprised me and my wife. And so it's been like a favorite show of ours. And then season 2 came out a couple of years later, which was in Italy, and of course had like F. Murray Abraham on it. And just one of the great shows, right? So it's back now for a 3rd season, and it takes place in Taiwan, right? So yeah, and of course it's like every season there's usually like one person who returns from the season before it or another season. So like on the last season, it was, you know, Jennifer Coolidge from all those Christopher Guest movies. And of course, most famous, I guess, to people of my generation is Stifler's mom, right? And she was great in the first season, and the second season is Tanya, who's like this billionaire heiress who's got mommy issues, I suppose. So yeah, but yeah, in the 3rd season, the returning cast member is the woman who played the worker at the spa at the White Lotus in the 1st season, and she's coming to like Taiwan to, you know, train in better spa practices, I suppose. That's what the 1st season seems to be about. But yeah, like what I like about it so much about the 3rd season of the show is that it's clear that they're building into the suspense angle a lot more, and like the crime angle a lot more. And just, it seems like with each successive season of the White Lotus, they are playing up to just this arrogance, obviously, of like Western nations, and how that's tied into violence, right? Like how arrogance almost always precedes violence. And so in the 2nd season of the show, for instance, there was the whole subplot with Jennifer Coolidge's character Tanya being set up by this man that she met in the first season, who was played by Jonathan Grise, who's most famous as like Uncle Rico, I think, from Napoleon Dynamite. Yeah. But she's being set up essentially to be killed for her money, right? In the show, and how Uncle Rico just leaves her and in the hands of like these wealthy Europeans. And in the third season, it sort of looks like it's kind of following that same exact trajectory. You got Walton Goggins is there, who is a great character actor. The first time I think I ever saw him was on The Shield many years ago. But he's obviously been, HBO has like a stable of actors that it brings into like all of its shows. And Walton Goggins, of course, has been on like shows like Vice Principals, and most recently the Righteous Gemstones as Uncle Baby Billy, right? And it's one of those things, if I ever meet that guy, I want him to call me a nerd. It's like, you nerd. He's from the South, though, too. Yeah, he's, I think, from Kentucky, right? It's Walton Goggins. But yeah, on the third season of The White Lotus, Walton Goggins is this guy. We don't really know what his deal is in the first episode. That's all there's been. There's just been one episode. But we know that he's just like pissed off all the time. He seems to be like really irritated and irritable, and he seems to have come to the White Lotus for some kind of ulterior motive, which is to meet the owner of the resort for some reason. And in the in kind of the teaser for the season that comes at the end of the episode, it seems like he wants to take over the resort, and they just show a shot of him with like the gun. But then like a couple of other characters on the show also have guns. Like there's Jason Isaacs, who plays like this vacationing dad from North Carolina, and he's there with his whole North Carolina family. And he also has a gun. So I don't know what's going on here, but it very much seems, again, like just they're playing much more. Each season keeps on escalating in its use of violence that's immediately preceded by just these white Westerners being very arrogant about things and just wanting whatever they want when they want it. Right. So, it's just a really cool show. And of course the new season has Parker Posey on it, which I love also. It's like Parker Posey is, I think most famous in my opinion from the movie Dazed and Confused, right? Where she's like air raid bitches, right? My Parker Posey impression. But yeah, Parker Posey plays like the wife of Jason Isaacs. So she's this North Carolina mom who is over medicated on pharmaceuticals. So clearly that whole commentary about how we've all just zonked out and made ourselves happy on medicine, right? And she's I guess what you would probably call like I saw a term for it tonight actually on somebody's article. I was like reading an article and somebody called it a trad wife, like a traditional wife. Typically the women that you see in the South, married to trad men, I suppose. I don't know. But yeah, like these are the women that you see on, like YouTube and Instagram, and they're kind of making cookies and occasionally telling you about how much they love God and Donald Trump. I think that's the term for them now. They have to have a label for everybody. But yeah, it very much seems like Parker Posey is kind of like fitting that mold and doing a very good job, a good satire of it. Yeah, I think that's where we need to really draw some lines here. It's because I did make the point earlier on the show, of course, that, what is being done here, right, is this just exposure of and this devil may care attitude of the rich towards showing us how little they think of us by mocking us, by ruthlessly satirizing us, by taking our jobs away, right? And yeah, so like the way that I guess we're fighting back is by also satirizing them. But there is sort of this like weird fine line that we have to draw, because like the people making these shows, like the actors on the show, the White Lotus, who are probably getting paid a lot of money to go to exotic locations and satirize rich people, are in themselves rich, right? So what are they doing? Are they mocking the poor people that are watching the show, who are laughing at rich people and kind of developing this false notion of what they really are? Or are they with us as well, right? I don't know. So, like, again, if the movie Eyes Wide Shut shows us anything, right, is that you can be a doctor living on Park Avenue and still be a servant of the 1% of the 1%, right? So I think, I think they're good. I think they're one of us. I think that's right. So yeah, the White Lotus is back. And yeah, some more good news. Some good local Alabama news. What good things is Alabama doing right now except being fully complicit in the Trump administration's attack on education and medical research? Well, an Alabama coffee shop has just been named second best in the U.S. on a global list, the 17th overall. I don't understand that headline. Oh, okay, I see. Second in the U.S. and then 17th overall in the world. Wow. No kidding. Who would have thought that an Alabama coffee shop would have had the 17th best coffee in the entire world? Looking for a place, this is on AL.com, looking for a place to get a good cup of joe. 4 Alabama cafes recently made the list of the world's best 100 coffee shops. They place several Alabama coffee shops among the best on the planet. Prevail Union, which has locations in Montgomery and Birmingham. Never heard of them. What did Prevail? I thought I knew all the coffee shops in Birmingham. Like there's the Starbucks in University. The Starbucks in Crestwood. I'm kidding. Prevail Union was ranked the highest of the Alabama shops on the list at 17th place. While Domestique Coffee, I don't know where are all these coffee shops? Domestique, also in Birmingham. I don't know where this is. And Seeds Coffee Company. I do know where Seeds is. Seeds is pretty good. They do all their coffee in a pour over, but I don't know if I've ever really sort of said, damn, but it's also maybe because I just have never really had a good cup of coffee. I don't know. And I don't know the reference. It's sort of like recently when I got reading glasses, I had no idea how bad my vision was. I was just living with a disability for so long. I didn't really know, but until I put on my glasses. But yeah, Seeds, Domestique, and Prevail. Also another one, not in Birmingham, but in Florence and Tuscaloosa, Turbo Coffee came in at 72nd place worldwide. Wow, that's impressive. Yeah, that's pretty good. I think I know what I'm going to do tomorrow. I'm going to go and check out this coffee shop, Prevail. I don't know where they are. Look that up. Prevail Coffee Shop. I just looked it up. It looks like Prevail. Wait a second. Are the rich people who run the news making fun of me? I just looked up Prevail. You'd think I would have gotten like a coffee shop because Google knows where I am. Like Prevail Maxi Pads. Okay, wait a second. Is this... Okay. Am I being punked by the rich? Prevail Coffee Shop. I wonder if they know that they share their name with a maxi pad. Prevail Union Birmingham. Okay, so it's closed right now, of course. But where is it? Where's the address? No idea. 20th Street North, Suite 125. Oh, I think I've actually picked up coffee. Oh, no, I haven't. No, I thought I delivered here once. It looks like it's in the terminal station, like the bus station downtown. Okay. All right. So I guess I'll go there tomorrow. Are they open tomorrow? I know this is an audio show and I'm just kind of not really talking right now, but I'm an hour and 20 minutes into the show. If you're still listening right now, like, you're in. Okay, so all right. I'm Googling Prevail. Come on, man. Show me what time they're open tomorrow. I want to go get some coffee. It's a Sunday. No, tomorrow's Saturday. I lost track of it. Opens 8 a.m. Saturday. So yeah, I'm there. 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, man. Let's go. Prevail Coffee. All right. And of course, here's a story. Yeah, to end the show, I cannot end the show on a high note. That would not be the show. No, of course not. I specialize in mandatory melancholy here on the Midnight Citizen Show. What's bad in Alabama? Well, what's bad in Alabama other than the fact that, you know, they conspire and are complicit with the Trump administration, and this week slashed a whole bunch of defense jobs in Huntsville, Alabama, which is the city that built the entire space program, and I'm sure is probably where had something to do with Elon Musk. Yeah, this culture of corruption may destroy Huntsville Police Department. Scandal shocks small college town. So yeah, about 45 minutes away from where I'm sitting right now doing the show, there is a town called Huntsville, Alabama. And this week, the entire police force was fired for just being corrupt. Like, every single one of them. There wasn't even, like, in the movies, right? Like, one of those, like, I don't take money kind of guys. They were all just apparently walking into the evidence room like it was their own personal, like, drug closets, and just getting, like, opioids and fentanyl and everything, and just, like, taking it out there. So yeah, that entire Huntsville Police Department is just closed. Yeah, when the problem began is not yet clear, although court records state that the crimes the officers are accused of date back to at least March 1st, 2024. That's not very long ago at all. Man, these guys must have not been very good at what they did. That was the Friday that dispatcher Christopher Michael Willingham, 49, was found dead in his office. 6 days after Willingham's death, former custodian of evidence Lowell Adam Hatter filed a lawsuit claiming the mayor fired him with no valid reason after a heated exchange with Wilcox, the city clerk. I don't know what's going on here. Yeah, I think, like, what happened is that the dispatcher who was found dead had died of an overdose, and it looks like they had cleaned it up to make it look like just a heart attack or something. Hatter said he warned not doing so would destroy the chain of evidence. So I think that's what happened. But yeah, it just looked like they were just not securing the evidence room, and they were basically just using it as a way to, make money and just line their own pockets, and just typical police stuff. But the entire department did it. I think there were only 8 people on staff there, but yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so right now, somewhere in small town Alabama, there's a police department without the lights on. That's never a good thing for crime and all that, but I don't know, man. This is the stuff that Joe Don Baker movies used to be made out of, right? Just the small town with the corrupt populace, and the local police department being complicit in it all, and the one guy who comes to town who's not going to take it anymore, right? That used to be... I think that's a good movie. I don't know. I had that idea. Don't take it from me, okay? With that, I want to say thank you so much for joining me here on the Midnight Citizen Show. I have been your host, Mike Booty, and you can, just a reminder, you can find me over there at Substack, mikesbonfire.substack.com. I want to say I've really been enjoying it this week. I know last week my entire show was built around the fact that Substack is like screaming into the void, that it's really hard to get noticed over there. And I even posted a note about it, and that note ended up somehow blowing up right after I talked about it and complained about it on the show. So I don't know if like they heard me. I don't know, but I admitted on the show, it was an experiment just to test the algorithm, just to like show the Substack algorithm that I wanted people to notice me. But really, I wanted people to just share stuff with me, because every time I logged onto Substack, it would just be people, pasting quotes from other people, like Gandhi and things like that. And I just wanted people on there to just share stuff with me without like forcing me to pay for it and all that. That's all I want. And I do realize when I say that I'm on Substack, Substack is a for-profit company and they encourage you to make money for them. So that's one of the reasons why they don't promote you very well. If you don't charge for what you do, because if you don't charge for what you do, that means that they're not making any money off of you. And that's the reason. And but I am on Substack though, really just for the free hosting they're giving me right now. And so yeah, you can check me out over there at mikesbonfire.substack.com. And you can find this show. You can also listen, obviously, on Spotify and Apple. I don't know. You're listening to this show, so you found a good way to listen to it. So I don't know why I'm saying it, but for future reference, And also over at youtube.com/the_Midnight Citizen podcast. I'm over there as well. And I also remember lately I've been doing vlogs as well as a way of promoting the show, or I'm doing this podcast to promote the vlog. I'm not really sure. I spend a lot more time on the vlog because I'm editing video and all that. But I have been enjoying it lately. It's been keeping me sane. I've been, very busy teaching school lately, but in terms of just doing the show and then doing a vlog every week, it's been keeping me centered in all of these ideas of like what's been going on and how it's really going to affect me down the line. And I know that I should really be spending the time to find a job, but training AI or something. But this is a lot more fun and feels a lot more real, and that's kind of what I need right now, right? So yeah, check me out over at those platforms and on Facebook and Instagram and all those good places. And I'll be over there, right? And is there anything else I wanted to say? I don't think I have anything really else. It's a new podcast on Saturday night, vlogs on Monday, and I'll see you there. Keep your eyes open.